What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? It is your boy MM2K back again. New video. Prior format being brought back. It's called Quick Dose. This is where I talk quickly on the fly, latest and greatest. I don't have a lot of time to sit there and do intros and all that other stuff. I just want to get right into this one. So when I run into those moments, this will be the format that we'll use. Before we get into this one, do us a huge favor, hit that like button. Okay. All right. And the subscribe button as well. Let's get into it. PlayStation 5 Pro enhancements, particularly under PSSR, are under fire again. This is layered. This is not black and white. There is some nuance to this. However, in my opinion, all angles kind of got this wrong. There's two sides to this argument. One side is trying to say that the PlayStation 5 Pro was a waste. See, Digital Foundry's proving it every day. The other side is saying, no, don't even worry about this. This is a nothing burger, no big deal. Most of the PlayStation 5 Pro enhancements are awesome. So this is just a small margin of them. This is being overblown. Nothing to see here. Both sides are wrong. Let's first start with the story. Okay. So if we look at where this is all stemming from, this past weekend, and we're starting to see these happen more often than not, a PlayStation 5 Pro enhancement dropped for the game Avatar, right? However, when it dropped, people that had it on the PlayStation 5 Pro, they're like, hold on. This PlayStation 5 Pro version is actually worse than the base version. But the bigger problem is, since they dropped this version, I can't go back to the old version that I was playing. Like, so my experience is worse now. Right? So that's the story. Okay. Now, there are a lot of people that are deriving from that story. Oh, well, you know, there's a bunch that are messed up. It's not a bunch. PlayStation dropped over, 58 games or something like that were Pro enhanced at the day of launch. And so far, we've heard problems about 5. So less than 10%. Okay. A lot of the games that we're hearing problems about, I would say most of the 5 have had problems, period. Opposite of Avatar. And I don't know, I can't quite remember if Star Wars had issues on console. Maybe it did. I can't remember, but I know for sure that Avatar pretty much was praised. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty much praised on the console. Right? Okay. So let's go into side number 1 that's trying to say that the PlayStation 5 Pro is a waste. And in order to examine that side, I had put this out, right? Now, I do admit that, you know, there could be some things that Sony could be doing, like, you know, allowing people to shut, you know, there's some things that could be done. I'm going to get into that part later. But I say here, the PS5 Pro hate is just that, hate. But it doesn't mean that PlayStation didn't have a bonehead moment in this rollout. Okay. And when I talk about the hate, I said, you know, one of the things that should be happening is you should be able to shut PSSR off when there are issues, because this is the beginning of it. This is the launch, the rollout. And it's not like DLSS 1.0 didn't have issues, the rollout. Like I pulled here, there was noticeable image blur. There was a lot of complaints about DSSR. You know what I mean? 1.0, blurry images, you know, the game support was limited. There was other implementation challenges. It was improved by algorithm refinements and just the nature of AI and machine learning. And the newer iterations to DLSS 2 and particularly DLSS 3, you saw large leaps, right? You do have a lot of people that are saying silly things like, you know, well, if there's 20 good ones, there's 20 bad ones. And that's just stupid. You can't just throw out innuendo like that. You have to have empirical proof. And the only empirical proof that we have right now is that there's 5 games. Like there's not like thousands of games out there, and it's hard for us to count. There are 5 games where issues have been reported. For the most part, and as I've shown you guys on MM2K Gaming streams, go there and you'll see our Stellar Blade video, which has done quite well on the channel. For us, for a game stream to get over 2,500 views, like that's crazy for us. You know what I'm saying? We just don't see that type of volume, especially on our game streams channel. That is known to, you know, maybe at best get like harbor like 100 views or something like that, right? But we like to have that game streams channel here, and let me show you a little bit of it. We like to have that game streams channel available to show y'all we put our money where our mouth is. We're not just sitting there on YouTube talking stuff and trying to say crazy things. We actually play these games. And from our experience with a lot of these games, we're finding out that the PlayStation 5 Pro enhancement is doing what Mark Cerny said it was going to do. It takes the best of both worlds. It takes the best of the quality modes of games and just meshes it well with the performance mode, so you don't have to make a choice. For the most part, it is doing that. But like DLSS at launch, it's having problems. Okay. So a blanket statement of it's useless is not that's silly. That's goofy and that's erroneous. Especially when you're talking about less than 10% of the game so far having said issues. So people got to understand nuance. Everything isn't black and white. I think we live in such a whiny world. We do, to where if everything that we want isn't perfect, then we got to raise hell. And we got to throw things away, or, you know, we got to throw we got to throw the child out with the bathwater. I believe as the saying goes. You know what I mean? And that's not the way to look at it. Definitely there's problems, but for the most part, this thing works well. It does wonders, and it does what it says it's going to do for the most part. However, now we're going to go to our part 2 of this opinion, because I don't believe that there's a nothing burger or everything should be okay. Like, you know, as far as people addressing this, or, you know, just look past this. Yeah, there's some issues, but so what? I don't believe that at all. Right. And this is where I kind of get agitated. Like I'm used to the liars and the haters that just want to hate on stuff that isn't Xbox. I'm used to that. The thing that does have me like worked up more than anything is the boneheadedness from the multi-billion-dollar company. What am I talking about? Well, I say here, why were these few issues even approved? Plus, why can't people shut off enhancements at a system level? Imagine not being able to shut off DLSS 1.0 with this issues. Now, we talked about the issues earlier. And here's something that I had to comment on, because D-Batch was, you know, shout out to D. Now, for those of you that don't know, D and I go way back as far as like doing this, you know, this thing here, content creation thing, more so offline than we do online. We used to get into big blown out back and forth, you know, comical ones, messages and stuff like that. And I see over time that it just took D to like let go of his emotions of hoping that Xbox would do better, and finally just realizing that they're not. So I appreciate more of his takes, more so than I have before. But that's okay. You don't have to agree with me, and I don't have to agree with you. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, as long as you're pivoting off the right place, we can look at the same thing and come to different conclusions. I don't care. But I do want to point this out because D is bringing up the fact that, again, you got people that are focusing on less than 10% of the overall volume. That is problematic. And they want to make it, they want to throw the child out with the bathwater. Oh, the PS5 Pro is useless. That's not true. And D is addressing this with Kid Smooth. And I think he's accurate in this depiction. But if you want to look at this thing from 5,000 feet, and this is where I get agitated, not at D, but at PlayStation, because they're the ones that allowed this. I say to D, I said, look, it's definitely not as bad as people are making it out to be. But this rollout has had some serious bonehead moments. It's like you say only a handful are bad, while several times that make it more than worth it. So why is Sony giving enhanced stickers to the effed up ones? I can understand down the road as support grows, you can't feasibly manage every attempt. Hell, even DLSS 1.0 had issues. Could you imagine not being able to, shut it off in those games though? First few batches of games should not be awarded a sticker if worse than the base in any ways. Lastly, I say perception is not against the law. Bonehead move by Sony to not scrutinize better. It's inviting more scrutiny than necessary. And there's no more proof than this. When you go to the Digital Foundry video, like they're licking their chops at this. When you go to the Digital Foundry video, like they are just basically saying, again, off of this less than 10%, they are still saying you're giving them enough ammo to say, well, we were hoping that PSSR was a feasible solution, but, unlike FSR, it can't handle lower resolution. Like this is what they're saying now. And you giving them that ammo. They are making this less than 10% seem like it's the worst thing ever. And I can't be mad at them because you, Sony, gave them the opportunity to do this. How did you do this? Because you put Digital Foundry on such a pedestal. For one, Jim Ryan did it in an FTC trial when he kind of like ordained them the kings and talk about how PlayStation is concerned about Digital Foundry reviews and stuff like that. Like you've ordained them the king. And then when it came to the rollout, when people were asking questions about this, Mark Cerny didn't break this down thoroughly and in an adequate way and show video. You guys gave it up to Oliver at Digital Foundry to do that. So you've made these guys kingmaker over the perception of your product or service, and now they're crapping on it. I don't agree with the strategy of giving so much prudence or credence to Digital Foundry and letting them be the arbitrators of how this is perceived, because there's clearly some agendas there. Like I don't even want to talk about Alex and John. You could tell he be glazing Xbox and really be boasting it up more than it deserves. Like he's done this since the Xbox One X. And then he always gets his glazing of Xbox always gets proven wrong. But still, yet he does it. And perception is 9 tenths of the law, like I said in that tweet. So you make them kingmaker. So if you're going to make them kingmaker, if that's your strategy that I don't agree with, then don't give them nothing to feast on negatively. Why are there this is less than 10% of the pro enhanced games out there. The AI and machine learning training for these 4 specific games, Avatar, Star Wars. I mean, I can get Jedi Fallen Order and then Silent Hill. Like you think that there's going to be that much activity on those 4 games that it warrants you to, you know what I'm saying, risk the whole perception of this new technology that you have in your expensive console? Is it worth it? Or should you have just simply said, we're glad that you guys want this to be pro enhanced. these games aren't ready yet. It's important during the rollout that at the very least, the Pro Enhanced versions are in no way, shape, form, or fashion worse than their counterparts in particular areas of the base model. Like, that should have been standard. Like, we're not going to sit there and nitpick, but you know, in certain particulars and visuals and whatever performance or frame, this cannot be worse than the counterpart. Okay. Than the base model. That is most and foremost, right? Like, that would be like me trying a 3070 versus a 4090. I can't see a scenario where a game on a 4090 performs worse in any aspect than a 3070. That's how the PlayStation 5 Pro needs to be versus the base model. You know what I'm saying? And you don't get there by forcing PSSR for 2. It should be mandatory that people can shut off these Pro enhancements at the system level. Because you can run into a situation where, like, say for instance, I got a 20 series car. Say I got a 2090. Or I had a 2090 and I upgrade to a 4090, right? So I can use DLSS 3 with all the bells and whistles that come with DLSS 3, right? Frame generation and all other stuff and the technology I wouldn't be able to get with said 2080 or 2090. Let's say, for instance, that for a particular reason, and it's going to happen, even with DLSS 3, that DLSS is bugged for a particular reason with the game. What's happening here would be like NVIDIA forcing DLSS on you, even when the game is bugged. No, NVIDIA doesn't do that. You can turn DLSS off. So even though I have frame generation and DLSS 3 on a 4090 that I wouldn't have on a 2090, if DLSS 3 for some reason is bugged on the 4090, it's not static. They're thus rendering my 4090 experience worse than my 2090. We know that the PlayStation 5 Pro just is more capable. But if there's some type of engagement, particularly AI and machine learning engagement, that gets bugged on games, and that happens, then we should be able to shut it off and just use the raw PS5 Pro versus the raw PlayStation 5. And then and it's like, okay, well, PSSR is bugged here at the moment. It needs to be patched. But you can't force it. And Sony, you training this AI and machine learning is not that important for you to do that. There has to be standards. Standards, number one, need to be through you. Before you give out these stickers, set a standard. It can't be worse than its base model counterpart, period. Period. Quality mode on the Pro shouldn't look worse than quality mode on the base if it's going to be Pro enhanced. If that is not the case, then you don't get the sticker yet for that. Now, if you happen to make the performance mode better, that's great. Make the performance mode better. Let's hold off on the quality mode part. And then when you get the quality mode part, that can be a later patch. I don't get it why that's not mandatory right now. And I don't think that that's shutting out too many developers. Again, we're talking about 5 out of 50 plus. Stop being this anal about this. This is stupid. This is really dumb. Like, somebody said to me a long time ago when it came to Stadia, when I used to rah for Stadia, right? And they were like, man, I listened to your videos when you're criticizing them, and I hear you talk about your business experience. And it's like, I'm not saying this to you to be facetious. I wish you worked there, because if you worked there, it sounds like that 90% of the stupid stuff that they do, you would eradicate. And I took it as a joke. I just thought that the person was just trying to get on my good side. But again, I know what I know my experience, and I know what I've done in the past. So I didn't need my ego stroke like that. But I'm honest. I'm being honest right here. And I don't think this is not me patting myself on the back, because I don't do what you guys do. You guys have done this for decades. If me sitting on the other end of this can come up with 20 times more feasible solutions to this that would work better than what you're doing, but what type of people do you have in charge over there? And I do have corporate 500, Fortune 500 experience. I've done it. VP level managers managed to me, or I have managers that reported to me. I just question how a lot of these high-powered, rich companies are run. This is dumb. This is idiotic. There needs to be Q&A here, or at the very least, be able to shut the feature off. I think my 4090 versus the 2090 scenario is a perfect example why. Otherwise, in that scenario, you would be basically making the 2090 a better option for a particular game than a 4090. There is no scenario where that's the case. And the same should apply to the PlayStation 5 Pro, especially in these early stages when you're going to have developers that are going to have, messes that they don't thoroughly vet and you're not vetting them. So at the very least, let people shut it off. But something's going to have to give. I don't get what's going on with this new school PlayStation. They really seem to be off their ball in some critical areas. And I'm not dooming and glooming and fighting and like, oh, the Xbox has a chance. Hell no, they don't. But because Xbox doesn't have a chance as far as providing true AAA genre defining content, now we're leaning on you. You all we got out here in these console streets. You can't do this, Sony. This is bonehead. It's stupid. It's idiotic. You got to do better. And even Digital Foundry said, this is even before I saw the video. I put that tweet out there. And when I saw the video, they said, Alex Bugaga said the same thing I did. He said, oh my God, where is the quality control, or at the very least on the system side, be able to shut this off? This is ridiculous. That Alex Bugaga can actually understands how you should handle this better than you do. I digress. I'm out of here. All right, y'all. I know this was supposed to be short, but for our inaugural return of Quick Dose, I had to be a little bit long-winded. I got to get out of here. Got business to take care of. And we will see you for a live show the following day after this is recorded. Cold Blood and I, trust me, Cold Blood has a lot to say about this. We're going to get into this. But again, looking at both sides of the coin. Yeah, the haters are trying to over-exaggerate on this. But again, who's opening the door to the criticism? This is stupid, Sony. Come on, man. Do better. Do better. But that's it. We're out of here. Till next time, have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.